Hi. I was eager to get back here. Eager to continue this open book club. As we all know, like when you start something new, it takes a lot of reworking, right? You have to figure out what direction you want to go in. It takes a lot of planning. To not just start a podcast, but to find the purpose in the podcast. The purpose of the podcast is reading. It's obviously reading, right? I was giving like synopsis of the chapters when I just figured instead of like reading chapter by chapter, I'll just give you a quick overview of my thoughts on the book, and hopefully it drives you guys to like want to read the book. Where have I been? Well, I, this might be TMI, but I did have a cyst that I had to take care of. It wasn't like life-threatening or anything, but it was certainly scary. Like, this is the first medical scare that I have ever been through in my life. I do have a mom who is very holistic and believes in holistic healing, all the natural herbs, and doesn't believe in pharma or going to the doctor even if you have a cold. And it works out for her. Let me just say that. And I do stand by that to a degree. So with that being said, I have insurance, but I like never really went to get checked or anything. And when I felt something was off, I didn't get checked right away, and eventually just blew into what is called, and I'm going to look it up because I forgot. Bartholin cyst, right? Yeah. So I had a Bartholin cyst. And is it a big deal? Not necessarily, but it hurt. It hurt. It was definitely painful. I was laid up on the couch for like a week. I felt like my whole life had to be on pause, which kind of sucked. Only because I felt like I was finally getting into a routine of work, taking my emotions out of work and throwing myself emotionally into a hobby like this podcast and reading and being passionate about something that I can actually like share with the world. And then working out. Like I had a whole routine of, okay, like I'm going to do things that is only going to benefit me mentally and just make me feel secure and great about myself. And then I had the cyst that kind of like put everything on pause. I'm a type of person that finds lessons in everything. I do believe in God, and I'm getting emotional because this wasn't a life-threatening thing, but it was definitely something that took me off my track. And I just remember just like laying on the couch that's behind me. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this gray couch. I just remember laying out on the couch and feeling like I was helpless. Like I couldn't do anything. I pumped myself up with ibuprofen. It didn't subside the pain that much, but I took one cyst bath, which that's a whole other story within itself. I want to get my boyfriend pregnant because he was just amazing throughout this whole issue that I was having. But yeah, I was just laying there, and I did what any person who believes in God would do, which is like pray, right? You're taught, even if you don't believe in God now and you grew up in the church or you grew up in religion, you're taught to call out to God and pray, and ask Him to take care of the thing that you want taken care of. And in that moment, knowing this wasn't like a life-threatening thing and things could be a lot worse. I just felt like the pain was so unbearable that in that moment, like, I was praying to God and I was calling out to him. And I just kept thinking, like, where's, why is this happening to me? You know, I'm clean. Okay. I keep up with my hygiene. I work out. Not only have been tracking calories and watching what I'm eating for the sake of weight loss, I'm watching what I eat for health. I felt like I was doing all of the right things, and then I guess nature just came in and humbled me and stopped me in my tracks. And I was upset. I was angry because like I was just praying like, God, take the pain away, and the pain was not going away. And I was like, what the fuck is the lesson? Like, why do I have to go through this? You know? Because I didn't do it to myself, right? Bartholin cyst, if you look it up, the cause of it is unknown. Like, it's just a gland that gets clogged up sometimes. And unfortunately, as the shell, the body, we have to like deal with what comes with that, which is either like pain or discomfort. You can control all the things that you're supposed to control, all the things that society is telling you that you should control. You can have everything down packed, but there are things that the universe or nature will throw at you that you just you can't understand, and you don't even know where to begin to know what part of that you can subside. Circling back to the lesson, besides the surface level, take care of yourself, take care of your body. If you feel like something is off, go to the doctor, seek a professional, and figure out what's wrong and treat yourself. Besides that, I don't know, my heart is saying like, when it's time to slow down and rest, even if it's not in the ideal way. And this is what my heart is saying. I'm not gonna lie. In my mind, I don't even believe myself when I'm saying this. I don't even believe my heart right now. My heart is telling me that there are things that you can't control because for whatever reason, sometimes the universe or God wants to just sit your ass down. It's just telling you, sit down for a moment for a reason. And maybe I had a Bartholin cyst because I was supposed to rest and think about my next moves and ponder and reflect and be more grateful about just being alive and living. Again, I know Bartholin cyst is not life-threatening, and I'm so grateful that I don't have to deal with a medical issue where it's counting down the days of my life. And I'm so sorry if you have to go through that. I can't imagine, and that is an experience I don't think I am equipped for. I don't think anyone is equipped for it. But yeah, ultimately, I just think that, my lesson in this is that even if it's not ideal in how I want to rest, I need to take a seat and rest. Definitely made me feel a little refreshed. I would rather rest on a beach outside of the country, okay? Girl, I got my passport sent. Why is it sitting right here? I don't know, but I got my passport. I would rather be where my passport is telling me to go. I would rather be where the passport is leading me to go to rest, okay? I'm not trying to rest with a damn cyst. Like, what the hell? Like, why? But sorry, I don't know why I got so emotional earlier. Ill, like, girl, it's not that serious. Okay. What else happened? Lots happened. I mean, my boyfriend's parents came and surprised him for his birthday, and I thought that was it was a beautiful time. They were here for about a week, and I love it when out of towners, whether it's like a friend or a family visits you and your place from out of town, because you get to be a tourist with them. Like we did something every day of the week, and it was actually quite nice because we did little things like tried a new restaurant or a restaurant that we haven't been in a while because we wanted to have a nice dinner. We went to a museum and we walked around in the tourist attraction area in our town. And it was just like really nice to just like take a break from the routine. Funny enough, like his parents actually visited like right after I got treated for the cyst. So they came just in time. So not only did I have like a week of resting with while in pain. I also had the following week of healing, and which I'm all good now, by the way. And I just got to enjoy them and shoot the shit and vacation like a tourist in my own city, and it was great. Okay, so in the last episode, I did cover chapters 11 through 15. In this episode, I will be covering 15 through 25, and then just an FYI, the next episode will be the end of the book. So I'm gonna wrap it up, and I'm not gonna go through each chapter like I've been doing, just giving a synopsis. I'm just gonna kind of like talk about the chapters in its entirety. So in chapters 11 through 15, we're introduced to the tribe of tatted women. They're the Dagar women, and Dagar is actually they are Highlanders or mountaineers. They are the Vietnamese people who live in the highlands, in the mountains. So I think that was pretty cool. Like I was introduced to a whole new group of people that I just didn't know existed until I read this book. Just a little recap, like she was on this journey to off herself because she couldn't marry her man, and ran into these women while she was on the path to pretty much throw herself off the cliff or like hang herself or whatever. And the women were like, girl, come here. Like, you don't got to do all that. Like, give yourself 3 days, sleep on it with us. If you want to off yourself after the 3rd day, then by all means, but get it together. Because, child, what? Okay. But yeah, so that's kind of like where I want to say, I believe that's where we left off. Essentially, there's a bunch of other shit that went on. You can hear it in my synopsis. But yeah, so I will be covering 16 through 25. Yeah, because I think I said 15 through 25, so it'll be 16 through 25. And here we go. So 16 through 25 is all about war, okay? This is where things start really ramping up. Just a little recap at the tail end of chapter 15. So Nee's punishment essentially gets uplifted a little earlier to find her sister Track from trying to off herself. Meanwhile, Track is hanging out in the mountains with the Dagar women, learning to just find herself and find her inner strength. And Nee goes to find T-Sack, Track's lover, to go with her on looking for Track. They find Track, they come back, Lord Trung is pleased, and he sends his right-hand officer, Ka, as well as another officer or messenger to go to the Han governor and let that governor know that not only did he fulfill his duty in marrying off his daughter, he also managed to collect 12% more in taxes from the Kungden Milan, or the people of Kungden Milan. Yeah. So the Han governor is not pleased that Track ended up not marrying another Han. And he also felt like, well, if the people of Kungden Milan managed to collect 12% more in taxes, I'm just going to raise the taxes 12% more. So he sends the messengers back to Kungden Milan and pretty much followed behind the messengers and decided to crash the ceremony of Track and Tsac, where they would announce that they are going to get married. So the way that I was reading it, it just sounded like they were having like an engagement party in Kungden Milan. And so the Han governor decided to crash that shit, and he did. And let me tell you, I'm sorry, I meant so, like, not the governor, but Commander Ho. So Commander Ho is a hating ass hoe. This guy literally crashes the party just to say, like, I'm a bit displeased with the fact that you guys haven't fully converted into Han tradition, and that you are essentially, like, not forcing the people of Kungden Milan to convert. He was just like, your traditional Viet ways end here and now. And if it doesn't end here now, then I will have to force my way into your domain and make everybody convert and adhere to the Han culture. And that's where we head into chapter 17, where Lord Trung decides to write a letter. Well, actually, Lady Menten told Lord Trung that I'm going to write a letter and you need to have it delivered. The letter basically just said, F you, like, we're not doing this. Lord Trung read that letter and was shaking in his boots, hunty. He literally, like, chat GBT'd Tsac. He was like, rewrite this, make it less wordy and a little bit more passive than aggressive. So Tsac did exactly that. He wrote a letter that was in the tone of almost like asking and begging to keep their traditional value and to not convert over to, you know, Han ideologies. He's a little conflicted because he felt like, okay, I will be soon the new lord of Kungden Milan, and my wife has strong values in our people, and so do I. And I feel like I'm going to be doing a disservice by sending off this passive aggressive letter as opposed to just being direct. So he has cognitive dissonance. Does he move with fear, or does he move with strength that he knows will shake the peace that they were able to uphold? Tsac decided to shake it up and sent the letter that was more direct, the letter that was originally written by Lady Menten. Specifically in this letter, Lady Menten kind of snuck in there, if you need to force us to bend to your will, then 1, 2, 3, 4, I declare a thumb war. Ho. So Commander Ho receives the letter. He sees that this is a real threat to the Han government. Therefore, he pulls up to Kungden Milan with his guys, gathers Lord Trung, Lady Menten, Trung Track, Trung Ni, and Tsac. And he's like, y'all gotta go. What's gonna happen is the Lady Menten, you know, you damn near aged out to be a concubine, so you gotta scurry on somewhere. We gotta figure out what to do with Trung Ni. He's making remarks saying that he will break her wild nature and possibly train her to be a proper Han concubine, as well as Track. He mentioned that, you know, just basically was just saying all the things that he could possibly say to disrespect her as a woman. So, what does Lord Trung do? He gets down on his knees and he is just begging. He's begging for his life. He said, please, if you need to take me as a prisoner, do that. I will do anything you need me to do, so long as you just leave my family alone. Commander Ho is definitely a hoe-ass bitch and wants to torture people, so he is basically explaining that he's gonna do unspeakable things to not just Lord Trung, but to his family. Tsac essentially steps in front of Lord Trung and is like, take me instead. I was the one who wrote the letter. I sent the letter. execute me, imprison me, and spare the family of Kung Damilan. And Commander Ho, reveling in this spotlight, reveling in the fear that he is imposing on these people, decides to call one of his guardsmen to behead Lord Trung and Tisak in front of the Trung sisters and Lady Menton, the mother. Then he told the women, pack your shit. I don't care where you go, but you got to get up out of here. Now, I was reading up on the history, and I think I mentioned this in the previous episode, but pretty much, oh, you know what? No, I think I mentioned this on my Instagram or TikTok. So what's interesting is that there is a difference in the real story and what the author wrote in this book. Obviously, he wrote it a little bit differently for entertainment purposes, according to the Googles, right? According to online. Tisak gathered his fellow aristocrats to I think it was to like write a letter and just pretty much write about how raising taxes were unjust. Like the whole war between this group of Viet people and the Han, to which the Han wasn't messing with that anyway, so they did in fact execute Tisak. Which then riled up his woman, Trung Trak, to wage war against the Han. So there's, a slight difference. I mean, there's definitely a love story there, but I do find it interesting that in this book, the author is making it so that Lady Menton is the one writing the letter. And the reason why I'm kind of veering off and talking about this, I love the fact that the author is highlighting the value of strength in women. He's not highlighting beauty. He doesn't highlight any other attributes other than perseverance, emotional intelligence, understanding, and strength. All the beautiful qualities that a human being could have. Oftentimes, like I would see memes or videos or just in conversations would hear about male authors boxing women. I mean, beyond with just like looks, like if they write about a woman who is supposed to like display strength, he just has to throw in there that like she got a fat ass and she's hot or something, I don't know, and shows this like sign of like weakness when it comes to her man and stuff like that. But in this book, Bronze Drum, Feng Nguyen is actually like from the beginning of the book plants the seed that these sisters, although it took a man or the love of Trak's life to get executed, to wage war, they already had that idea in their head. They were already trying to figure out, like, we have a purpose above this palace. We don't know how we're going to get there. We don't know plan A to plan B to C to D, but we know that our purpose is to lead. I found it really cool that he just like planted strength and resilience in the women in this book. I just want to know, like, did he grow up around women? And I know that he highlighted a woman in his book, like in the beginning, and I believe this book is dedicated to his grandmother. Dedicated to his grandmother. For Vu Ti Hao, born 1919, passed away 1947. Grandmother I never met. Shot by a colonial French pilot. She died holding her 1-year-old son. Wow. And it's just this beautiful photo. So I the only thing I can think of is he just has he grew up understanding the strength of not just women, but specifically his culture, the Vietnamese women, and knowing where they come from. And you can tell that he put his all into this book. Okay. Yeah. I was about to say he put his Badissi in this book. So the sisters, the mother, and the female cook that was actually with them ended up going into like the town. They are amongst the people. You know, Trung Ni was outside. I think that we covered that in the first couple episodes. And she had her bestie named Mai, who is a sex worker, and Mai takes them in. You know, she hears about what happened. Track just felt like, you know what? There really isn't much time to cry over my husband or my father. So, I'm just gonna get logical with the shit, turn off the emotion, and get straight to planning this war. So she goes into the town center and starts talking to a bunch of women. And the reason why she targets women is because there's this cool quote in this book where I'm not gonna look for it right now, and I should have highlighted it, but essentially, I believe Ni or Lady Menten is basically saying, gather not just women, gather men as well. And Trung Track only wanted women because she felt like, well, we see the damage that the men could cause. We see, she pretty much says, we see how dumb they are when it comes to war. And I think we should try something a little differently. I think we should use the minds of women instead. The people are like, honestly, we know like the Han is here. The Han been here. They've been executing us and whooping us, and like we're already kind of like bending to their will because we had no other way to live anyway but to bend to other people's will. So right now we're not really worried about the Han. We're actually worried about Rang the tiger that keeps preying on all of us. Like, we can't even hang out. We can't walk at night. We can't walk past 5 p.m. The sun is setting and I gotta go home. And I don't want to do that. So what the sisters decided to do was, okay, so if that is their immediate threat, let's get rid of their immediate threat, gain some respect, and let them know there's a greater threat out there that we need to fight. The Trung sisters, Lady Menten, and like their female chef that was with them, they devised a plan to trap Rang the tiger and kill him. I'll spare the details. They executed the plan successfully and left the body of the tiger until the morning so that way everyone can see the proof. And they were finally, like, the people, mostly the women, were finally like, okay, I'm listening. So Track goes from pretty much city to city on foot to get people on board. Track is in her campaign era. She ends up in Vo Quan, which is like the working class. And Track, who now is calling herself a she-king, by the way, is holding this meeting with Nat Nam to convince him to have the working class wield weapons for them. So Track decides to go into the town and talk to people one by one, trying to get this cause to gain some sort of popularity or traction through word of mouth in order to get some recruits. And then she's off to gather pretty much the last sector of her army, which is the archers, who will then be the Dagar women of the mountains. So Track goes to the village of the Dagar people and meets up with the women that she met in the previous episode. I mentioned those chapters. And she basically tells him, I cannot win this war without the best archers that I know. They were like, why would we join forces with you? And what strength have you acquired since the last time I saw you? Because you weren't able to marry your boo and you were getting ready to off yourself. So, like, so why should we call you our she-king? Like, who are you? She basically explains the purpose of her campaign. It's moving. And they're like, okay, we'll have a conversation if you can pass the test that we gave you the last time you were here. The She King, Trunk Track, passes the test. They now sit and have this conversation, and I love it because both the men and the women are then making her give them reasons as to why they should join. Trunk Track basically said, we share the same ancestors, and although we might have been separated, you are still a part of us and we are still a part of you. And I promise that I will honor my word by making sure nobody touches you guys, making sure you guys don't go extinct when I defeat the Han. And the Dagar people are like, okay, well, we need a little bit more, because I'm going to read this last part that ends chapter 25 because I think it's so powerful and I love it. So it says, eventually the tattooed man spoke again. How is the king of the Viets sending our men to fight in their war any different from the emperor of the Han sending your men to fight in their wars? Period. Valid question. Trunk Track, or the She King, smiled and said, it is different first because I am not asking you to send your men, okay? I'm asking you to send your women. So chapters 16 through 25 is about assembling the army, right? She's running this campaign, she's appointing generals, and it's interesting because, the author highlighted since the beginning of the book that the sisters were taught war tactics, and she knew that it was going to take a minimum of 3 months before the Han attacks Kingdom Milan and takes over with force. So she thought to herself, I have 3 months to focus on the goal at hand. She actually gets into an argument with her sister because her sister's trying to get her to sit and mourn, and be a little bit empathetic towards those around her who also lost their father and, lost some people along the way. Trunk Track has this mentality of if I sit and cry about this right now, I'm gonna not only display a sense of weakness to my followers, I'm also going to be wasting time. We have 0 time to convince. I think they ended up gathering 70,000 women and some men. She's like, we have less than 3 months, which is pretty much no time to try to convince 70,000 people on foot to join your army to go against a really freaking strong entity, to go against a strong government. So, I guess now that we have social media, it's kind of easy to recruit people online. But yeah, think about it. She was on foot and had her horse was going city to city, trying to not just convince the leaders of the city, but just the people alone. Because even then, you could be ahead of a city and not be able to move your people. So she had a lot of work to do, and because of that, she decided not to, she always thought about her man, right? She always thought about Tisak and her father, but she realized that this war was just so much bigger than her. The bigger picture that she was trying to paint surpassed the loss of the people that she loved. And man, did she make a mark. Both of the sisters did. Tringy definitely had her place, but Trunk Track, man, did she truly executed the picture that she was trying to paint, And I love the fact that Feng Nguyen, wrote this story, making sure that that legacy continues on. Sometimes being a leader means that you have to put pretty much a country full of people, or just a world full of people's feelings before yours. Trunk Track she wanted to grieve, but she wouldn't be putting everyone else before her. Like, it's almost humbling, right? I mean, I think like maybe I don't have that quality of like leadership, because am I willing, do I even have capacity to go beyond my personal needs and go beyond my personal issues to see the result of something that I may not live to see? It's crazy to think about what we do truly does make an impact. And just because we don't see the result of it doesn't mean that there isn't a purpose in it. It's powerful when you're aligned with knowing the impact that you are going to make, and the intention behind it. I think that that is probably the quality of a leader, and that is what I see in Trunk Track. She aligned both impact and intention, knowing that she might die, because that is like the only result. That's the only certain result in war, is knowing that there will be death. But through that, understands that she can empower a whole group of people who are talking about her decision to this day. And here I am, a non-Vietnamese woman sitting in her apartment, getting goosebumps, thinking about how she created this dent in the Vietnamese history. All right. Guys, I gotta be honest, I am PMSing a little, so I think like me, getting all emotional and stuff, I'm just gonna blame that. I don't know why I'm like feeling everything so deeply. I just feel so vulnerable today. It's really weird, but I believe I'm starting my PMS cycle. So thank you so much for bearing with me. Next episodes, I'm going to read 26 through 35. I think 35 is the last chapter. So we're going to see how it ends. I mean, I Googled a little bit of the history of the Trung sisters, so I have an idea of what the ending is going to be. But I wonder how Phung Nguyen is going to paint this picture, because so far he's doing a great job. When you're an average person like me and you Google the legend of the Trung sisters, it's a little, or just the history of the Trung sisters, it doesn't seem like there's that much information. It's just one of those things where it's just enough where you want to know a little bit more. And I just feel like Phung Nguyen does a really good job painting who the sisters are, and you just get to know them. Anyway, needless to say, read this book. Otherwise, you can listen to my jargon. And hopefully I'm doing a good job. Thank you for sticking with me as I'm trying to reshape this podcast. I'm trying to figure out what direction, once again, like what direction I want to go in and how I want it to be. But it'll only get refined over time. So there might be some switch ups for like 3 months straight. So until then, that is it. I will see you next week. Bye.